Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tamadirahe Nashtaprayeshu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Muttama Shloke Bhaktira Bhavati Naishtaki. Grandhraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. So we're reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 3rd canto, 26th chapter, titled as The Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. So Bhagavan Kapil Dev is explaining to Devahuti about the creation and the creator. That is the. So Devahuti inquired from Kapila Dev in the previous shloka. Devahuti asked Kapila Dev that kindly explain me the characteristics of the creator, the supreme person, and his creation, which is manifested and unmanifested creation. There are two types of creation, right? One is manifested, which we can see, but there are subtle elements of creation which we cannot see, which is called as unmanifested. So Devahuti is inquiring from Kapila Dev about the whole creation, how this creation came into existence. So then, to answer that, Kapila Dev is saying here, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yat Tat Trigunan Avyaktam Nityam Sad Ashat Atmakam Pradhanam Prakritim Prahur Avishesham Visheshavat. Shri Bhagavan is Kapila Dev. Kapila Dev is incarnation of Lord Krishna. So here he is addressed as Bhagavan. So Kapila Dev is saying to Mata Devahuti, the unmanifested eternal combination of three modes is the cause of the manifest state and is called as Pradhan. It is called Prakriti when in manifested stage of existence. So here the creation is further described as manifested and unmanifested. Unmanifested form of creation is called as Pradhan. And the same when it is manifested, it is called Prakriti. So what is Pradhan and what is Prakriti? Pradhan is the unmanifested three modes of nature, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna and Tamo Guna. So when the three gunas, Sattva, Raja and Tamo, they are in an inactive stage, that is called as Pradhan. And when they are in active stage, is called Prakriti. Okay, so these three gunas are always existing, but when they are activated, that is called as Prakriti. Okay, so that is Pradhan and Prakriti. Now these three gunas, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna and Tamo Guna, they are always there everywhere in all the living entities. But then their proportion is different in different living entities. So that is the main creation, the element of this creation is these three gunas, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna and Tamo Guna. So Prabhupada is explaining this in detail. The Lord points out material nature is subtle stage, in its subtle stage, which is called Pradhan. And he analyzes this Pradhan. The explanation of Pradhan and Prakriti is that Pradhan is the subtle, undifferentiated sum of all the material elements. Although they are undifferentiated, one can understand that the total material elements are contained therein. When the total material elements are manifested by interaction of the three modes of material nature, that manifestation is called as Prakriti. Okay, so Prabhupada is explaining that further. That there are material elements, that there are 24 material elements total. Those are Gunin, earth, water, air, fire, ether, like those 5 elements. Bhumi, Apo, Analo, Vayu, Manakhama, Buddhi, Evacha, Ahankara. All these are material elements. So these are, in the next shloka, they are described more in detail. So all these material elements, when they interact with the three modes of nature, that is called Prakriti. So this the thing which is in inactive stage is called Pradhan, and the same elements when activated along with the three modes of nature, that's called Prakriti. You personally say that Brahman is without variegatedness and without differentiation. One may say that Pradhan is the Brahman stage, but actually Brahman stage is not Pradhan. Pradhan is distinct from Brahman because in the Brahman state there is no existence of material modes of nature. So there are three stages: a Brahman, then there is a Pradhan, then there is a Prakriti, and then there is another stage which is called Mahat Tattva. One may argue that Mahat Tattva is also a different form of Pradhan because in Mahat Tattva there are manifestations. The actual explanation of Pradhan, however, is given here. When the cause and the effect are non-manifested, avyakta, the creation of total elements doesn't take place, and that stage of material is called as Pradhan. So, inactive form of all the material elements. Pradhan is not the time element because in time element there are actions and reactions, creation and nor it is jiva or marginal potency of living entities or designated conditioned living entities, because the designation of living entities are not eternal. Right? So time is not part of this whole pradhan tattva. Time is or even jivas or living entities are also not part of this. We are talking about material and not the spiritual. Time and living entities, jivas, they are different. We are just talking about material creation, not the spiritual part of it. Therefore, the condition of material nature immediately previous to its manifestation stage is called as Pradhan. So here, Kapila Dev is explaining about the creation. Now, these elements are explained in this next shloka. And what are these elements? It says, Panchavi Panchabir Brahma Chaturbhir Dashabhis Tata Eta Chaturvimakshiktam Ganan Pradhanikam Vidu. So these material elements which forms this creation, they are total 24 elements. So what are those? So these are namely 5 gross elements. So what are those? Earth, water, air, fire, ether. Then there are 5 subtle elements. These are the subtle elements which are not visible. So those are 5 subtle elements. Then 4 internal senses. 5 senses for gathering the knowledge. And 5 outward organs of actions. They are called as pradhana. Okay, so these are karmendriyas, gnanendriyas, and then 5 natural elements. These are all total 24 in number, and they form the elements, basic elements of pradhana. So here, Purport Prabhupada is explaining, according to Bhagavad Gita, the sum total of 24 elements described herein is called as Yonir Mahad Brahma. The sum total of the living entity is impregnated into the Yonid Mahad Brahma, and they are born into different forms, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant end. So these 24 elements are there in every living entity, right from Brahma, who is the topmost living entity, up to the smallest insect or ant on the planet. Everybody is composed of these 24 material elements. So these are 5 basic elements: earth, water, air, fire, ether. 5 gnanendriya, 5 karmendriya. So 5, 5, 10, 15. And then there are internal senses. And then mind, intelligence, ego, like that. Earth. All this, they form 24 elements. They are described in Bhagavad Gita in detail in 15th chapter. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and other Vedic literature, the sum total of 24 elements, which is called as Pradhan, is also described as Yonid Mahad Brahma, and it is the source of the birth and subsistence of all the living entities. So, Pradhan, which is combination of these 24 elements, is there in all the living entities. So, Jiva and time is separate, and then this all creation is formed by this Pradhana Tattva. Pradhan Tattva is the 24 elements in an inactive stage. And when Krishna, by his own energy, activates this with three modes of nature, Prakriti, it becomes Prakriti. That's the activated stage of these material elements is called Prakriti. And then more process of creation is being explained by Kapila Dev in the next shloka. Kapila Dev is saying that Mahabhutani Pancheva Bhurapo Agnir Marunannabha Tanmantrani Chati Tavanti Gadadini Matani Me. So he is saying these five gross elements, namely earth, water, air, fire, and ether. There are five material elements, gross elements. And there are also five subtle elements. What are those subtle elements? So they are described in detail. Smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. So this is the description of those material elements detailing given. So he says five karmendriyas, Pancha Mahabhuta, and there are five subtle elements, which are smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. And then he's further describing Indriyani dasta totram tvadragrasanam nashika vakakaru charanam medram payur darsham uchyate. So he says further, the senses for acquiring the knowledge and organs for action are number 10. So there are 10 karmendriyas and gnanendriyas. Okay. Namely, the auditory sense, the sense of taste, the tactile sense, the sense of light, sight, the sense of smell, the active organs for speaking, working, traveling, generating, and evacuating. So, Pach Karmendriya, Pach Gnanendriya. Five. So this is part of the material element. So here, five subtle elements are earth, water, air, fire, ether. Five subtle elements: smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. Then five Karmendriyas. Which are for the actions, and five gnanendriyas, which are for the acquiring the knowledge. So what are the senses for acquiring the knowledge? So senses for the acquiring the knowledge are auditory sense, sense of taste, tactile sense, the sense of sight, sense of smell. And for the action, the karmendriyas, the organs for speaking, organ for working, organ for traveling, generating, and evacuating. So five karmendriyas and five gnanendriyas. And then the next, so these are total 24 elements they are described. And the next elements are Manobuddhir ahankaras chittam iti antaratmakam chaturdha lakshate bhedo vritti lakshana rupaya. So here the subtle elements are also then the other includes internal elements. The internal subtle senses are experienced as having four aspects. Which are those? Internal mind, intelligence, ego, and contaminated consciousness. Chittam. Chittam means consciousness. So these are four subtle elements. Distinction between them can be made only by different functions, since they represent different characteristics. So here, Prabhupada is explaining four internal senses or subtle senses described herein are defined by different characteristics. When pure consciousness is polluted by material contamination, and when identification with the body becomes prominent, one is said to be situated in false ego. Consciousness is the function of the soul, and therefore behind consciousness there is soul. Consciousness polluted by material contamination is called ahankar. So man, buddhi, ahankar, and this false consciousness that I am this body, which is also ahankar. So these are all considered to be the material elements for creation. And these 24 elements which are described here further is described by Kapila Dev. Etavan va sankyato brahmana sagunayaha sannivesho maya prokta ya kala pancha vimakshaha. So he's saying all these are considered the qualified Brahman. The mixing element, which is known as time, is counted as the 25th element. Now, all these 24 elements, they are combined together, and time is the main factor. And this time factor is put in by Lord Krishna, and that is the 25th element. So we'll pause here and then we'll continue our study of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam tomorrow. Rudraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.